So in this series we've been talking about the complex numbers, which if you recall were defined as the set of all x plus iy, where x and y are real numbers. And I was called the imaginary unit, which we defined as I squared equals minus 1, or I equals the square root of minus 1 if you like. And we denoted this set with a boldface C as the complex numbers. So in this video I want to talk about the powers of I, and this is pretty useful stuff to know, especially as you're probably going to be dealing with I quite a lot, especially if you're taking a course in engineering or complex analysis or whatever. This is pretty useful to know. So our first example asks for I squared. Well, we know that I squared is by definition minus 1, so I squared is minus 1. How about I cubed? Well, I cubed using the index laws is just I squared times I. I squared is minus 1 times I. And minus 1 times I is just minus I. So I cubed is minus I. How about I to the 4? Well, I to the 4 is the same as I squared all squared, or I squared times I squared. And I squared is minus 1. So this is the same as minus 1 squared, which is just 1. So I to the 4 is 1. And this is very useful to know. Similarly, I to the 5 is the same as I to the 4 times I. I to the 4 is 1, as we just established, which is 1 times I, which is I. So I to the 5 is I. How about I to the 6? Well, I to the 6 is I squared times I to the 4, because I squared times I to the 4 is I to the 6, using index laws. And I squared is minus 1, so that's minus 1 times I to the 4, but I to the 4 was just 1, as we established here, so that's minus 1 times 1, which is minus 1. How about I to the 7? Well, I to the 7 is I cubed times I to the 4. And we previously established that I cubed was minus I up there. So I cubed is minus I times I to the 4, which we established was 1. So that's minus I times 1. Minus I times 1 is just minus I, because anything times 1, even if it's complex, is the same number back again. So how about I to the 8? Well, I to the 8 is the same as I to the 4 all squared, or I to the 4 times I to the 4, and I to the 4 was just 1, so that's 1 squared, which is 1. So this seems pretty simple enough. We've got this nice little I guess cycle going on. We've got I minus 1 minus I1, I minus 1 minus I1, I minus 1 minus I1. So yeah, as you might notice that I to the 9 will be the same as I to the 5, which is the same as I. Likewise, I squared is the same as I to the 6, which is the same as I to the 10. So as long as you keep counting up in multiples of 4, you get the same answer. So likewise, I to the 7 is the same as I cubed, which is the same as I to the 11, I to the 15, and so on and so forth. So we use this to do the next few examples. Let's look at I to the 100. Well, I to the 100, I know that 100 is a multiple of 4. So I can subtract multiples of 4 from this index as follows. So I know that I to the 100 is the same as I to the 96, which is I to the 92. And if I keep doing this, I know that we're getting I to the 4. And I know that I to the 4 is 1. So I to the 100 is 1. Likewise with I to the 121, I know that if I subtract a multiple of 4 from this, it will be the same answer. So I to the 121 is the same as I to the 21, because I can subtract 100, which is a multiple of 4, and then I can subtract 20, which is again the multiple of 4, from the index. Now, it won't change the answer. That's the same as I to the 1, which is I. So I to the 121 power is 1, or rather I. Now let's look at 1 over I. Well, 1 over I is the same as I to the minus 1. And if I add 4 to this exponent, it will be the same answer. So I to the minus 1, or equivalently 1 over I, is the same as I to the minus 1 plus 4, which is I cubed. And we know that I cubed is minus I, as we established above. So how about I to the minus 2? Well, I to the minus 2 is the same as I to the minus 2 plus 4 in the index. So that's the same as I squared, just adding 4 to minus 2. And I squared is minus 1. So I to the minus 2, or 1 over I squared, is minus 1. How about I to the minus 3? Well, I to the minus 3 is the same as I to the minus 3 plus 4, and that's the same as I. So I to the minus 3 is I. How about I to the minus 4? Well, I to the minus 4 is the same as I to the 0, which is the same as I to the 4, which is just 1. So this is like our last example. Well, we've got I to the minus 997. So this is the same thing as I to the minus 997, not 999, 997, plus 1000. I can add 1000 because 1000 is a multiple of 4, and that won't change the answer. And minus 997 plus 1000 is the same as I to the 1000 minus 997, and that's just I cubed. And as we established, I cubed was just minus I. So I to the minus 997 power in minus I. So in this way you can establish what any power of I is.